Every Shabbat before the Tefillah, I give a Shiur, I give a class on Midrash, on teaching how to extrapolate from the Midrash on the Parasha some profound insights that are enormously helpful in navigating our lives, particularly in the current times in which we find ourselves. And there's been an expression of sadness that these shiurim can't be recorded and are not available to a wider group of people. And I've been asked, whenever possible, after Shabbat, to record some of the main points that came out of that shiur. And in a recent shiur in PARASHAT CHUKAT, which I called the struggle to greatness, there was an example of such an opportunity to gain insight, to gain clarity, to gain some degree of inspiration and direction in the difficult times that we're living as the Jewish people today. And I called it the struggle to greatness because greatness requires a struggle. Just as you're not going to become physically fit and strong if you're not going to struggle in the gym, so you're not going to become spiritually strong and build strength of character without struggling in the religious gym and the spiritual gym of life. Struggling sometimes against ourselves and sometimes against circumstances. And it's that which brings the Midrash to say in Bereshit, on Hashem taking a look at this beautiful universe He's created and saying, V'hinei tov ma'od, it is exceptionally good. That word exceptionally, it's not just good, but exceptionally good, the Midrash says, was referring to, of all things, the Yetzer Hara. That Hashem says, what I really consider to be like the apex of my creation, that which is exceptionally good, is the inclination in humanity to do bad, the inclination to be comfortable at all costs, the inclination to hold oneself back from greatness because the effort is too much. That's the Yetzer Hara, the instinct, the human instinct of doing just whatever comes to us rather than to be mindful, considered, and ethical in the choices that we make. That Yetzer Hara was Tov Ma'od because Hashem sees in that Yetzer Hara the opportunity for people to become great. That creates the struggle with one's own instinct to become truly great as an individual and a person of great character, which leads the Prophet Yechezkel to say in chapter 33, Uveshuv Rasha mirishato, when a wicked person returns from his vice, and he does that which is just and righteous, he's turned a new leaf. Alehem hu yichye. It's because of that he'll truly find the vitality of life. And the Malbim explains that because that delta, that gap between where he was in his practice of vice and where he is now in his practice of virtue, that vice, that gap, that distance, that is the very power that drives his achievement of greatness, because in that is the struggle. The greater the struggle to come from where we were to where we are, the greater the vitality of life that we're able to find. And that's why the Midrash says on Parashat Chukat, who is it? And it's saying this in the name of Eov, the book of Job, written according to our tradition by Moshe himself. And the Midrash says, who is it that can take that which is bad, tamei, and make it tahor? Mi yiten tahor mitamei. Who can transform the impure into the pure? Who can transform olam hazeh, this physical world, into olam haba, into a spiritual world? Only Hashem himself, only He who is one, who can create oneness out of things that are so disparate, such as good and bad, pure and impure, this world and the world to come. Since Hashem is the oneness of existence, He creates that oneness and is able to convert the negative into the positive. And it's that conversion of negative into the positive that is the struggle of life. It's not just being positive. It's not just being born positive. It's struggling with negativity and overcoming it. It's struggling with passivity and overcoming it. It's struggling with a lack of caring and becoming somebody who is sensitive and caring. And it's for that reason that the Prophet says in chapter 33 of Yechezkel that Uveshuv Rasha mirishato, when a wicked person turns a new leaf and turns away from his vices, V'oseh mishpat u'tzedakah, and he does righteousness and justice, Alehem hu yichye, that's the person who finds vitality of life. And the Malbim explains that it is that delta, it's that gap from where you were to where you are, that creates the force of life, that creates the opportunity for growth, and that creates the greatness, the taking something negative, in this case our own practices, and turning them around and making them positive. That gives us that power, that struggle against the friction of the Yetzer Hara, that struggle against the friction of our own natural tendencies and instincts to do that which is supernatural, that which is truly human. That's what really gives the person the opportunity to achieve greatness. And the Midrash concludes by saying, and it's a piece that Rashi brings on the parasha in Chukat, Chukah chakakti gezeira gazarti. I have legislated a law, I have made a decree, you have to observe it, you don't have a right to question it. In other words, this capacity to turn bad into good, this capacity to find in hardship virtue, this capacity where we see good people having to experience bad things. Why bad things happen to good people is one of the foundational questions that the book of Job explores. And in that, Hashem is just saying, that's the way I designed the world. That through the hardship of struggle comes the essence of greatness and goodness. And it perhaps goes even further than that. It's not just our struggles within ourselves. It is the hardships that we sometimes have to experience. And if we look at those words, Chukah chakakti gezeira gazarti, the word lachkok, which literally here means to create a decree, but that word also means to hew, to chisel. So a sculpture hews and chisels, we use the word chokek. And the word gezerah, which also means to legislate a law, has another meaning. It means ligzor, a tailor cuts the cloth to be able to form a suit. So the tailor's cutting is called a gezerah. The sculpture's chiseling is called a chukah. It's not by chance that those are the words that the Midrash uses to describe the turning of hardship into goodness, the needing to deal with struggle in order to achieve greatness. Because think about the tailor and the sculptor. Think about Michelangelo's comment that in every block of stone there's a statue inside it, and the task of the sculptor is to discover it. And how does he discover it? By chipping away the waste rock and chiseling it away until this beautiful design emerges. And the tailor looks at this piece of cloth and sees the suit in the cloth and cuts the cloth and cuts away the waste until the pattern, the design emerges, and there is the suit. And I sometimes think to myself, imagine that you're not the tailor or the sculptor. Imagine that you are the cloth or you are the rock. How painful must it be when the sculptor begins to chisel away? How painful must it be when the tailor begins to cut? How much loss when you see all this rock just breaking off and falling to the ground, when you see these cuttings and these offcuts from the cloth just being cut away and falling to the floor. What does that feel like for the cloth, if it could feel? What does it feel like for the rock, if it could feel? And in a sense, that's life. That in order for the design of who we really could be, who we are at our best and at our greatest, in order for that design to emerge out of our lives, there has to be a lot of hewing away of the waste. There has to be a lot of cutting away of the unnecessary cloth so that the true design can emerge. And these are times that we're living in at the moment where for the true greatness of the Jewish nation to emerge, there unfortunately needs to be a process of loss, a process of cutting away. This is how I've designed the world, that it's through dealing with the struggle that greatness emerges. We've seen greatness in Israel emerge since October the 7th. We've seen great people emerge, people who we thought were ordinary and are extraordinary. Not a few, not tens, not even hundreds, but thousands of people who are acting in the most unbelievable ways, and the nation coming together. Yes, we still have our problems, and it's part of the Jewish condition, and a condition for which we pay dearly, that we tend to default back to our negative behaviors. But there has been so much positive, and there is so much positive. It's important in these times to cast a light on that positive, to understand that all that's happening is that the great sculpture is busy chiseling away at those parts of us that need to be removed. The great tailor is busy cutting our cloth so that the design of our ultimate greatness will emerge, and with that, the future of the Jewish people.